So the next step in the process is to create a assembly fixture, an assembly fixture that will hold the keel and frames together during the assembly process. Also, we'll be constructing the first of the frames. And looking down on the deck on this side, once I do this side, I'm going to have to flip it over and do the mirror image of it on the other side. And we're going to want to make notches for each one of the frames to sit into so that they stay in place when we put them on the keel. The first thing we want to capture is the center line. Now that we've got the center line captured, we're going to want to use a French curve. Try to duplicate waterline. All right, now that we've got the center line and the water line in place, I want to capture the frame positions. So I'm going to start at frame position 0. got 0. Mark this 1. I'm going to mark it on both sides. Okay, so now we got all the frame locations in, and what I'm going to do now is flip the drawing over on the center line and do the port side. Oops. Not even close. What the heck am I looking at? Okay, had it on the wrong center line. Let's start over again here. Okay, I flipped the tracing paper over, and now we can do the port side of the ship. We need to start over again with the French curve. Trying to find the best fit we can. Right. Now, because I'm going to want to have notches for the frames to sit into, I'm going to draw a line somewhat parallel to the water line where I can put the ribs into to hold them. And the keel is going to want to sit in here. And in here. I really don't have to flip it back over, but I am going to do it because I think it'll be easier. Right. Now the next step is to take this down to a local copy shop and have a copy made from it. Actually 2 copies made from it, because I'm going to want to have one on the base of the fixture and one up on the top surface of the fixture, cutting things out. Anyhow, that's the beginning of our fixture. While we're creating the drawing for the fixture to assemble things, this might be a good time to take the center line that we've created, put it on the drawing, match things up where they're going to go, and then mark the water line. Because our assembly fixture is going to come right across the water line. So this is the part of the keel, or the center line, that's going to be sticking up above the assembly fixture. Just had the copies made of my template for producing the assembly fixture for the dancing feather. So now we have the templates that we need to make the assembly fixture. So next I'll be getting the material I need to put it together. Digging through my scrap pile, I found this nice thick piece of fiberboard and a piece of plywood. It's actually cherry veneer plywood, which is a little nicer than you need, but these should be enough material to make our fixture out of. I've marked my templates to be 6 inches wide by 14 inches long, which is enough overlap of the waterline outline that I don't think we need to make the base of the fixture any bigger than that. So I've got here a paper cutter. I'm going to trim those down. We've trimmed the templates down to the 6 by 14 size, and now what we need to do is cut the base and the top for the assembly fixture to be the same size. Using the big table saw, I was able to cut the fiberboard, MDF fiberboard for the base, 6 by 14, and then I didn't use the cherry veneer plywood. I found another piece of MDF, 1/4 inch thick MDF, and that makes a little more, actually a more rigid top for my fixture. So went with that instead of the plywood. So the next step is to fasten the templates to the top and bottom. The procedure here is I'm going to be using a rubber cement, and I'm going to be gluing the paper template to the top of the fixture forms. At this point I've spread rubber cement on the top and bottom parts of the fixture and on the back side of both of the paper templates. So now we're just going to wait a little bit, allow that rubber cement to completely dry, and then we'll put the pieces together. Okay, now that the rubber cement has dried, it's time to glue the templates down. This will be the base. It's going to want to go this way. I'm going to take a piece of wax paper and lay it over the base, just exposing a little bit along the edge. And then we're going to put this on and line it up with the base. Push it down. There. Okay, we have a template on the base. Now we'll take the top of the fixture and we'll do the same thing. Good. Now the next step is going to be to cut out the opening in the top of the fixture so that we can put the keel up through it and the ribs in place. I've chucked up a fairly large Forstner bit, and we're going to put a couple of holes in the center of this top piece. that's a good place to start. And next thing I know, I get out a little jigsaw and we'll cut out the inner shape. Okay, I've plugged in a little jigsaw here, and I'm going to be using it on this, which is known as a sheep's foot. It's commonly used in the silversmithing or jewelry business for cutting, usually with a jeweler saw or coping saw. You hold your work across there while you're cutting down through the center, and that works out pretty good. But I'm not going to be using it with the hand tool. I'm going to be using it with the power tool. Okay, let's see how this goes. So we got interrupted by a phone call here. Let's try again. Okay, so the next project is going to be to cut out all these notches where the frames are going to sit. Where am I? There we are. I'm going to cut all these notches out where the frame's going to sit. Maybe a little slower to cut the notches by hand, but it's easier to control the accuracy of the cut, I find. So now we'll take a chisel and we'll cut that out. And that'll be the whole procedure going all the way around. Give a little trial to the center line, see if that fits in. Now I'm going to have to open that up a little bit. Good. I have a couple of tools that I like to use a lot on this kind of thing. These are called Riffler or Rifler files, I'm not sure which. And they are very handy to have. Different shapes on them, and the teeth are nice and fine, and they're able to get in places like this. More. Okay, now eventually we're going to get this to come down to where I marked the water line on it. So that's going to fit down in there. So now we just got to do the same thing on the stern. Okay, we're going to open this up a little bit. Almost there. Okay, let's pretty much where the keel is going to sit to the water line on the building board. Now all we have to do is notch all the frame notches. After cutting a few of these with the handsaw, I decided to try something different. So I put a little finer blade into the and I think that's the way I'm going to cut these out, and then we'll finish them off with a file. Well, all the notches are cut, and they're going to need some fine tuning, but like I say, we can open each one up as needed as we put the frames into them. And the next task is going to be to space the top the right distance above the base, so that it positions the center line, the keel, exactly at the water line where it should be. I have enough of the 3/4 inch MDF board left over that I can get some corner posts out of that. So we'll cut that into roughly a 1 inch wide. And next we'll cut them to length. Now we want to cut them exactly 1 7/8 in length, and we want all 4 of them to be the same length. So I'm going to set that to the saw blade. That's buggered up a little bit. I'm just going to take a little off of that. Now we have 4 corner blocks to set up on the fixture. The next task will be to screw these corner blocks in place, and then screw the top down on top of those, and that'll complete the assembly fixture. I have marked the top of each of the blocks to find the center of it, so that we can drill some holes. And I've also marked the where the center of the block would come at the 4 corners. So we're going to drill those holes next. Turns out that I have just enough number 10 by 1.5" screws to do all 8 secure points. So I'm going to drill for the proper size for a number 10 screw. I used it all to center punch a hole in the top of these so that we should be able to find it in the center. And we just need the drill size for the bite hole in this piece. And now we'll do the next two. I've center punched the 4 holes in the corners of the base. Now we want to put the countersink in, so the screws will be not protruding out of the base. Okay, I just drilled the 4 corners of the base. Now we just have to clean up the edges of the holes, and we'll be able to screw the corner posts in place. Just going to see if I can't clean these up using a little bit of a chisel on here. While my camera was recharging, I couldn't film. I glued the top onto the corner posts. And I did that using a small square to align the center lines on both ends, and also to align the frame templates so that each frame sits properly on top of the ones on the bottom, because those will be handy in locating where the frames go on the keel as you look down into it. So the next step is going to be to shim the center line so that it's positioned properly to this surface, which is the main water line of the boat, so that we're going to, and that's marked on here, so that's going to want to sit about like that. And I've also marked the center line up at the bow there. So now we have to shim this so that every time we drop it into the cradle, it's located to the templates. I've managed to put some shims in under the keel, and another one at the stern. And the one at the stern positions the stern post so it's vertical, as well as sitting at the right level here for the water line. And the same thing here, sitting at the water line level. So every time we drop the center line in, it should be sitting in the correct position to the templates. It's time to start to look at the frames. And the first frame that I'm going to start with is frame number 0, which is midships. So we're going to be breaking this down into pieces called futtocks. And there are 2 layers of futtocks with joints that don't overlap. So we're trying to form a frame in which the grain doesn't run in the wrong direction. It basically runs with the frame. You want the grain running with the length of the frame for strength. So we're going to be looking at that. But first, the first thing we're going to have to do is to rip some wood. down to the thickness of the buttocks, and that we're going to do using poplar. I'm going to set up the miniature table saw, and we're going to make this a thickness that is just a little bit under a 1/16. I don't want the frames to come out too wide, so we're going to cheat a 1/16 just a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. I have a piece of scrap here. We'll just run that through just to see what the cut looks like. Yeah, I think that's going to work. So now we just have to cut some looks like a good size. I really shouldn't be running the saw too much without the vacuum cleaner running. So I'm going to stop and set the vacuum up, because the inside of the saw does fill up with sawdust, and it blankets the motor, which is not good. Okay, I've set up my shop vac with a material collector so that it pulls the sawdust from the saw in through this bucket, collects the dust in the bucket, and then the vacuum provides power for all that. And then we've got a small hose that goes into the back of the saw there. So now we have a collection system set up. Now the rather unscientific process of trying to figure out where we're going to put our buttocks begins. Now I want the grain of this to run pretty much up into that area there. So I think I'll bring it down to about here. And I'm going to cut that one, and we'll then put that in place and see what we're going to do with the next one. Well, we've cut the first two pieces for the futtocks. We now have to figure out where the next piece is going. And I think I'll probably bring it down to someplace around here maybe. So that leaves this piece in here to cut, and I'm going to we've cut our first 6 futtocks, and next thing to do is to glue these together. They'll be fragile because they're just a little bit of glue and it's all in drained, so we gotta be careful when we handle it after gluing it together. It'll get much stronger when we glue the second layer of futtocks on with shapes that overlap these joints. We have a layer of wax paper onto which we pin the futtocks, making each joint as tight as we can get it. And now we're going to put a little bit of the thin CA glue in those joints. Let it sit up for a while, and hopefully that's going to stay together in one piece so that we can glue the next row of futtocks on top of it. Now that we've glued the futtocks together, I'm going to leave them right on the sheet and try not to move them, and I'm going to actually draw and cut my next row of futtocks right on top of those. Okay, I'm starting to add the second layer of futtocks, and you can see that the splice line of the futtocks on the bottom is staggered from the midpoint where the next one is going to take place. And we're going to try to keep that going all the way through here, and that will make a stronger piece. And I'm actually going to glue these together, putting white glue in between the two futtocks. This gets a little tricky because there's no way of seeing the drawing anymore from where we are to know whether we have enough material here where that joint is, or up at the tip here. But if we do find that we're a little short on that, we can always glue a little piece in on top of it. So let's cut the next one. Ready to glue the second layer of futtocks onto the first, and you can see we've staggered the joints all the way down. And this last piece has the grain running horizontal, which will give the frame some stiffness across the going across the top of the keel. The second row of futtocks is now glued in place, and the white glue takes a little bit of time to set up, so we're going to leave that alone and wait for everything to harden. And the next thing we'll be doing is to glue the shape of the frame right on top of this blank. I've managed to get some rubber cement on the back side of the pattern, and put a slip sheet of wax paper under it so that we could get it lined up and then pull the sheet out from under it. Now, unlike the fixture that we're going to be doing the assembly in, when I glued the patterns down on that, those had to be pretty permanent, so I put rubber cement on both sides, both on the wood or fiberboard and on the back of the paper. Let them dry and then put them together, and that should stay pretty well. On this one, I just put some in the area of the futtocks. I put it on the paper only. I didn't put any on the wood of the futtocks. And I put it on while it's still wet rather than waiting for it to set up. And hopefully that's going to make it a little easier to take the paper off after we get done cutting it out. Now that got this sheet glued on, I'm going to trim some of the excess off. And I'm going to mark on an area that's going to stay with the piece that this is frame 0. Now we're ready to take it over to the jigsaw and cut it out. Now we're ready to cut this out. I'm going to try to stay proud of the line itself so that we can sand it back to the final position. just trim the top of the frame, because that's where it comes under the cap rail, and it sets the height of the frame and the shear line. So we want that to be fairly accurate. I'm going to try without taking the belt sander apart and putting the spindles in. I'm going to try using the small and large end of the belt sander as a spindle sander, and we'll see how that goes. Next, I'm just going to notch the frame for the keel. managed to finish cutting out the frame. The next step on the frame is to drill the holes and put in the trunnels, the tree nails that will reinforce all the joints in the frame. In the meantime, I've actually gone ahead and glued up the futtocks for the number 1 frame, so the next frame going forward. So the next step here is we're going to start to sand and put the holes in for the trunnels. At this point, we can peel the paper template off. What I'm doing here is making sure that the flat at the bottom is going to be wide enough to take the piece that's going to want to be glued in on top of it. To round over the edges on the inside a little bit. The outer edges I'm going to leave alone because they're going to get beveled as they're needed to meet the planks. So just be a waste of time to sand a round edge on it. I purchased these some time ago at the supermarket, and they are bamboo skewers that are a rather nice size, and if we measure them, they vary between 0.75 and 0.80, so they're a little bigger than I'd like to see. So the next step is to run them through a draw template to get them down a little smaller than that in diameter and to make it a consistent diameter all the way around. I've placed the draw template in a vise, and I'm now going to start to draw the pieces through the draw template. The template is something that I bought, I think, from Micromark years ago. I don't need to do anything on the first two. As we get to the third one, we start to take some material off. See where we are here. Well, we got it down to 0.67. Okay, I think we're going to stop here. And I don't know if you can see, we've taken off a fair amount. And we're now down to 0.62, 1/16 of an inch, which is a pretty small dowel, and makes a nice drill size for the phutic. Let me, just for giggles, let's see if we go a little further. No, I don't think so. I think that's about as far as we're going to go. All right, I'm going to drill the holes in the frame, and we'll start. I've chucked up a 1/16 drill in my small drill press here. And I'm going to do a trial hole size, make sure that the trunnels fit this hole. It's a little tight, but we can get it in. So that's how we're going to fasten the phutics together. I think I'll move the camera around the other side so you can see a little better what's going on. I think my hand's getting in the way. Let's try it from this side. So what I've done is I've drilled a hole on either side of each joint, and we're going to put the trunnels in there. Now that I got to flip it over and find the joints on the other side, and we'll drill holes for those. So she's all drilled for trunnels. So now all we got to do is put the trunnels in and glue them in. Put some white glue in a cup so that I can dip the trunnels into the glue and then press them in place, as you see here. Go dip the trunnel in a little glue. Doesn't want to go through the hole. Interesting. I found a drill that's just a few thousandths bigger, 0.65, and I think that's going to make life a little easier putting the dowels in, yeah. So that's a little better. Well, stop for a second and draw another one through to get the right size. Okay, I've drawn another trunnel down to size. Okay, now all we have to do is let the glue set up and then we'll trim the trunnels off, sand it down and put a finish on it. Now that the glue is set up, it's time to cut the ends off the trunnels. Oops. All right, I think it'll be close enough for now. We'll take it down the rest of the way with sandpaper. All right. You can see where the trunnels have spanned all the joints. And other than finish, it's pretty much done. I used the Riffler file, and I opened the opening up a little bit for the keel. So now we have a snug fit to the keel. And we're on our way. Finally, the last step is to put a little finish on it. If it's like the keel, I'll end up putting 3 coats, rubbing out each coat in between with some steel wool. And we'll just let that sit there and dry for a little bit. The first of 20 frames is done, only 19 to go.